Hi everyone, my name is Abraham Akbar. I'm a fourth-year medical student at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. I'm excited to give this presentation virtually. It's titled, Implementation of a 10-Minute Tourniquet Simulation Increases Knowledge, Comfort, and Likelihood to Render Aid. So in addition to Baylor College of Medicine, this is a collaboration between UT Medical Branch in Galveston, UT Health Science Center in San Antonio, Rice University in Houston, and UT Southwestern in Dallas. Starting with some background, 1 in 4 accidental deaths are actually from preventable blood loss, but layperson knowledge of basic bleeding control methods remains fairly low. There are national campaigns like Stop the Bleed, which seek to address this through training classes. However, due to their length, often the classes are longer than an hour, and the fact that you need to register for these classes, this causes considerable self-selection in the layperson population that is being trained in bleeding control. So in order to reach a wider audience, we created Lone Star Survival, a Texas College of Emergency Physicians-sponsored nonprofit organization that trains layperson bystanders at public areas in 10-minute lessons. So for the purpose of this presentation, we don't have any financial or monetary disclosures, but I do want to point out that several of the authors, myself included, are on the board of directors of this nonprofit organization, but we don't receive any compensation or money for our work. Our objective then was to identify the effectiveness of this 10-minute training we implemented across Texas, and we hypothesized that layperson participants will have increased knowledge, comfort, and likelihood to render aid. Our study design was a pre- and post-intervention survey study, and this was geared towards everyone we trained through Lone Star Survival in 1 year. So this came out to about 2,522 participants. Our inclusion criteria was age 18 or older, and we excluded those people who had prior training in bleeding control. The surveys themselves were done in 54 public sites in 13 cities, and this was all done in Texas across 2019. The training instructors themselves were either medical students or physicians from 12 Texas medical schools, and participants were civilian laypersons. The curriculum that we used, we created ourselves, and it was basically simplified to 3 steps. First, call 911. Second, apply direct pressure to the wound. And third, apply a tourniquet. The objective parameters that we measured, we used multiple choice questions and answers, and we reported them as percentage correct. And the subjective parameters that we measured, we used a 10-point Likert scale, and we'll go into all of this in just a second. And we compared our pre- and post-intervention survey data using paired t-tests. I just wanted to show the picture of the actual bleeding simulators that we designed and we used in this study. Over there you can see a tubing that's coming towards the proximal end of the arm. The tubing is full of dyed liquid to simulate blood, and then there's a tourniquet wrapped around there at that proximal end, which if you do apply appropriate pressure and you install the tourniquet appropriately, it does cut off the circulation distally in that simulated arm. So out of the 2,522 participants we trained in 2019, 895, or about 35.5%, completed the optional surveys that we gave to them, and then 624, or 24.7%, met our inclusion and exclusion criteria. And just to clarify, the surveys were given immediately before and immediately after the bleeding control training. Our population demographics consisted of 57.4% female, with a mean age of 29.9 years. There was a diverse racial breakdown with 39.9% Hispanic, 35.9% Caucasian, 13.1% Asian, and 7.7% African American. This graph is showing the comparison of our pre- and post-training parameters. The left panel actually shows objective data corresponding with the percent correct, and the right panel is showing the subjective data corresponding with that Likert score of 1 to 10. So starting on the far left, we're first looking at the correct order of steps, and this would be, for example, first calling 911, next putting on direct pressure, and third putting on the tourniquet. And you'll see that the participant percent correct went from 71.6 to 86.3, and actually all of these parameters increased significantly with a p-value less than 0.001. Next, we look at the correct criteria for tourniquet use. Again, that increased from 77.9 to 90.5. And then last in the objective panel, correct tourniquet placement increased from 29.1 to 64.5. Looking at the subjective panel, the comfort level increased from 4.83 to 8.18, and then the likelihood to render aid increased from 6.2 to 8.76. So again, across all of these parameters, you can see a pretty significant increase, objectively and subjectively. In conclusion, this 10-minute tourniquet simulation that we implemented across Texas did increase both objective and subjective parameters of the participants' bleeding control knowledge, comfort level, and likelihood to render aid. We do want to have some future efforts geared towards a longitudinal assessment of knowledge retainment, since our current surveys were only looking at the data immediately prior to and immediately after the participants' bleeding control training. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me at abraham.x.akbar@gmail.com, and the website of our nonprofit organization is www.lonestarsurvival.org. Thank you.